my wish, and that he will carry me away to his castle, where we will live happily ever after.
I am Merida, and I'll be shooting for my own hand. What are you doing?
Today I will be talking about Disney movies from 1930s as opposed to today in modern society. So what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think Disney? Maybe it's the idea that fairy tales are real, or the sense of innocence you had as a child. Or maybe it's the classic happily ever after ending that you always knew was coming. Ever since the first Disney princess movie, Snow White, came out in 1937, the role of feminism in movies has changed in film and society.
The most spectacular of them all, the world premiere of the $1.5 million fairy tale fantasy, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs.
Snow White was directed by Walt Disney. This was his first feature-length film in full cartoon. Some describe the character of Snow White shows a more anti-feminist side of the American society in the late 1930s. This is shown in numerous scenes throughout the whole movie. In the beginning of the movie, we are introduced to the main protagonist character, Snow White, who we see very fast is weak, and she is also in the meadow picking flowers, which doesn't really scream, "Hey, I'm a hero." The movie's editing contributes to this anti-feminist idea. For instance, when she's in the woods, the huntsman overpowers her. And instead of being brave, Snow White just shields her face and screams. The camera angle looks up upon the huntsman, making him feel gigantic and superior. Disney made the huntsman extremely powerful in the scene, and the only thing that saves Snow White from being murdered is his pity. She takes on a more traditional women role in the movie. For example, her first thought when she enters the dwarf's home is to clean it, showing that it is a woman's job and role to be a housemaid. In return for their hospitality, Snow White promises to be a housekeeper and a cook for the dwarfs. And when Grumpy shows his dissatisfaction with Snow White staying, she spends the rest of the movie trying to please him and bake him pies and stuff, which really shows the anti-feminism in the movie, with the woman trying to please the man. Interdisciplinary humanities states, Disney princesses spend part of their narratives in death-like comas. Each, of course, then is wakened and rescued by a male prince, suggesting that it is the male's job to save them. However, although Snow White is proven to be anti-feminist and a little degrading, it's important to show this movie in context. The movie came out during 1930s America, where the values of women as household maids were considered normal.
She must know how to cook, know food. She must know how to set her table attractively.
As Disney went on producing more movies for younger audiences, the role of women also gradually changed to keep up with the changing perceptions. This is illustrated in the movie Brave. Brave came out recently in 2012, and the movie completely contradicts everything Snow White and 1930s America value. In the very beginning of the story, the director chose to make the men and the king appear more powerful and stronger than the women. Instead of staying to help the fight, the women ride off away from the problem. However, at the end of the story, the king is thrown onto a rock and is now up to the women to save themselves with no help from anyone else. Another huge feminine aspect to the film is when Merida shoots for her own hand in marriage. When Merida rips off the dress she's wearing, it symbolizes the breaking of the Disney tradition that all female princesses are waiting to be saved. Merida would rather save her own self. Overall, animation lends itself to creating new ideals. The director and creator of Snow White showed us that it is okay to give women specific roles in society because it was the social norms of that time. Also, it allowed people to believe in happy endings and fairy tales. The director of Brave broke that tradition and made a stronger feminist character of the 21st century that plays as a role model to young girls today.